You're staring at two numbers on your screen. One's your mortgage balance. The other's your savings account. And there's this one question that won't leave you alone. Should you kill the debt or build the wealth? Here's what nobody tells you. Most people spend years making the wrong choice. Not because they are bad with money, but because they are optimizing for the wrong thing entirely. And by the time they figure it out, they've left tens of thousands of dollars on the table. Maybe more. So let me walk you through something that's going to change how you think about every extra dollar you have. I call it the F-squared rule, the Freedom Fund rule. And by the end of this, you're going to have a framework that actually makes sense for your specific situation. Not some guru situation. Yours. Let's start with a realistic scenario. You've got a mortgage. Let's say it's $400,000 at 6.5% interest. Your monthly payment is around $2,528. Just principal and interest. Not even counting property taxes or insurance. Just a pure loan payment. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Let's say you get a raise at work. Or maybe you paid off your car. Suddenly you've got an extra $800 a month that you didn't have before. The question is, what do you do with it? Do you throw it at your mortgage every month as extra principal? Or do you start investing it? This is where most people freeze. Because both choices feel right. And both choices feel wrong. Your logical brain says invest. The math is simple, right? The stock market averages about 9 to 10% over time. Your mortgage is only 6.5%. So you should earn more by investing. Case closed. But then your gut says pay off the debt. Because there's something about owing $400,000 that just sits heavy in your chest. You're paying thousands in interest every single month, watching that money just evaporate. And your friend from college won't shut up about how fast they paid off their house. So which one is it? Well, here's the thing. Before we can even answer that question, we need to talk about something that most people fundamentally misunderstand about how loans actually work. And this is the part that's going to blow your mind if you've never seen it before. Imagine your $400,000 mortgage is 10 blocks, each block representing $40,000. You make payments for a full year. You send the bank over $30,000. So your loan should be down to about $360,000, right? You paid off most of one block. Wrong. Dead wrong. After 1 year, your balance is still $396,800. You've only paid down about $3,200 of actual principal. Where did the other $27,000 go? Straight to interest. This is called amortization, and it's how virtually every mortgage in America works. In the early years, the vast majority of your payment goes to interest. Only a tiny sliver actually reduces what you owe. Let me show you the real numbers. In month one of that $400,000 mortgage, your $2,528 payment breaks down like this. $2,167 goes to interest. Only $361 goes to principal. That's 86% interest, 14% principal. In month 12, still $2,147 to interest and $381 to principal. Even after 5 years, you're still paying $2,021 to interest and only $507 to principal. It's not until month 248, more than 20 years into your mortgage, that your payment finally becomes more principal than interest. For 2 decades, you're basically renting your own house from a bank. Now think about that $800 extra payment. If you just keep making your regular payments, you're feeding this interest machine for 30 years. But here's a beautiful thing about prepayment. Every dollar of that $800 goes directly to reducing your principal. Not 14% of it. Not half. All of it. And when you reduce the principal, you reduce the total interest you will pay over the life of the loan. So let's run the numbers on aggressive prepayment. You take your $400,000 mortgage and add the extra $800 payment starting in month 18. To be realistic, let's say you increase this payment by just 2% per year as you get raises. The results are dramatic. Your mortgage, which was supposed to take 30 years, is now paid off in just 17 years and 2 months. You've shaved nearly 13 years off your loan. The total interest you pay drops from about $509,000 down to around $260,000. You've saved $249,000 in interest. A lot of personal finance gurus would stop right here and declare victory. Look, they'd say, you saved $250,000. Prepaying is clearly the winner. But that's not the full picture. And honestly, it's intellectually dishonest to compare things this way. Because here's what they are not telling you. To save that $249,000, you had to spend roughly $196,000 in additional payments. Those prepayments didn't come from nowhere. That's real money you could have done something else with. So your net savings is really $249,000 minus $196,000. About $53,000 in actual savings. That's not nothing. But now let's look at what happens if you invest that $800 instead. You set up automatic investments into a total stock market index fund. $800 a month, increasing by 2% annually. At a conservative 9% average return over 29 years, your investment grows to approximately $1,247,000. $1.2 million. Versus $53,000 in net interest savings. It's not even close. Investing wins by over $1 million. Case closed, right? Just invest everything and forget about the mortgage. Not so fast, because we're still missing a crucial piece. When you pay off your mortgage early in year 17, you don't just stop and sit on your hands. You now have that entire mortgage payment, the original $2,528 plus the extra $800, that's suddenly freed up. That's $3,328 per month that you can now invest. So in month 207, when your mortgage is completely paid off, you start investing that full amount. You've still got about 12 years and 10 months left until we hit the 30-year mark. Let's see what happens when you invest $3,328 per month for those remaining 154 months at 9% returns. This is where things get interesting. That investment grows to approximately $804,000. Add back the $53,000 you saved in interest, and your total is around $857,000. So let's recap. Invest only $1.247 million. Prepay, then invest $857,000. Investing still wins by about $390,000. The math seems clear. Just invest. Build wealth. Let the mortgage ride for 30 years. But here's what keeps me up at night. And it's something most people don't even know exists. It's called sequence of returns risk. The stock market has averaged about 9 to 10% over the long term. But here's the thing, you don't get 9% every single year like clockwork. Some years you get 28%. Some years you get negative 18%. And the order in which you experience those returns, the sequence, matters enormously. Let me give you a real example. Let's say you started investing in October 2007, right before the financial crisis. You invested $800 a month consistently through 2008, 2009, and beyond. If you measure your returns from October 2007 to October 2016, 9 years of investing, your annualized return was only about 6.8%, even though the long-term market average is much higher. But what if you had started investing in March 2009, at the bottom of the crash? From March 2009 to March 2018, also 9 years, your annualized return would have been over 16%. Same market, same 9-year period length. Completely different results based purely on when you started. That sequence of returns risk. Now here's the kicker. With mortgage prepayment, there is no sequence risk. The interest rate is locked in. When you pay down principal on a 6.5% mortgage, you are guaranteed a 6.5% return on that money. Not approximately 6.5%. Not an average of 6.5%. Exactly 6.5%, with zero volatility, zero risk, zero chance of loss. Think about that for a second. A guaranteed 6.5% return in today's market environment is actually phenomenal. Most high-yield savings accounts are paying 4 to 5%. 10-year Treasury bonds are around 4.3%. Corporate bonds might get you 5.5% if you're willing to take some credit risk. A guaranteed 6.5% is competitive with long-term stock market returns when you account for risk. And here's another thing people don't consider: taxes. When your investments grow, you eventually pay capital gains taxes when you sell. Even with favorable long-term rates, that's still a chunk of your returns going to the government. But when you pay down your mortgage, that's tax-free. You're not taxed on the interest you don't pay. The $53,000 you save in interest isn't reported anywhere on your tax return. You just keep it. So we've got a conundrum. Investing gives you more total wealth, but with significant risk and volatility. Prepaying gives you guaranteed returns and peace of mind, but less total wealth. What's the answer? This is where the F-squared rule comes in. The Freedom Fund rule. And it's beautifully simple. You do both. I know. You wanted me to tell you definitively which one is better. But here's the truth. Personal finance is personal. The optimal mathematical answer might be to invest everything. But the optimal mathematical answer doesn't account for how you actually feel and behave. Money isn't just about spreadsheets and calculations. It's about sleep. It's about stress. It's about the story you tell yourself about your life. Some people sleep great at night knowing their money is invested in the market, even if it's volatile. Other people can't sleep at all knowing they are deep in debt, even if that debt is good debt like a mortgage. Neither of these people is wrong. They just have different relationships with money and risk. The F-squared rule says split your extra money between both goals. The exact split depends on your personal situation, but here are some frameworks that actually work. The 60-40 split. Put 60% toward investing and 40% toward mortgage prepayment. This leans toward wealth building while still making meaningful progress on debt reduction. The 50-50 split. The balanced approach. Half and half. You're building wealth and reducing debt at the same time. The age-based split. Younger folks might do 70% investing and 30% prepayment. As you get closer to retirement, you flip it to 30% investing and 70% prepayment. But here's my personal favorite. The interest rate rule. This is where the math starts to give us real guidance. If your mortgage interest rate is above 7%, you should probably prioritize prepayment. The guaranteed return is just too good to pass up. If it's below 4%, you should probably prioritize investing. The spread between your guaranteed rate and expected market returns is large enough to justify the risk. If your rate is between 4% and 7%, which is where most people are right now, do both. The exact split is up to you. Let's run the numbers on a 50-50 split with our $800 extra monthly payment. You invest $400 per month starting in month 18, increasing by 2% annually. You also prepay $400 on your mortgage, also increasing by 2% annually. With a prepayment component, you pay off your mortgage in about 23 years instead of 30. You save approximately $142,000 in interest, but you spend about $98,000 to do it. So your net savings is about $44,000. With the investment component, your $400 monthly investments, growing by 2% annually, compound to about $574,000 after 29 years at 9% returns. But remember, when you pay off your mortgage in month 276, you can now invest your full mortgage payment plus the $400 you were already investing. That's about $2,928 per month that you invest for the remaining 72 months. That grows to an additional $253,000. Your total, $574,000 plus $253,000 plus $44,000 equals $871,000. That's actually not bad. You end up with $871,000, which is about $376,000 less than the pure investing strategy. But you also had the psychological benefit of paying off your house 7 years early. You got to experience what it's like to live mortgage-free while you're still young enough to enjoy it. Now, there are some situations where the math becomes so clear that you really should prioritize prepayment over investing. High interest debt. If you have any loans above 8% interest, credit cards, personal loans, some car loans, Stop everything and pay those off right now. You're not going to consistently beat a 15% or 18% credit card interest rate in the stock market. That's just not happening. Approaching retirement. If you're within 10 years of retirement, having a paid-off house dramatically reduces your required retirement income. You're not just saving the principal and interest. You're creating flexibility in your retirement budget. Job instability. If your industry is shaky or your job feels uncertain, reducing your monthly obligations might be more valuable than building wealth. You can't make a mortgage payment with unrealized stock gains. Personal peace. If carrying debt genuinely causes you stress and anxiety that affect your health and happiness, pay it off. The psychological return of peace of mind might be worth more than any market returns. On the flip side, here are situations where you should probably prioritize investing. Low interest rates. If you refinance your mortgage to 3% or 3.5% during the low-rate period of 2020 to 2021, you have essentially free money after accounting for inflation. Invest everything extra you can. No emergency fund. If you don't have 6 to 12 months of expenses saved in cash, bill that before you prepay anything. Liquidity is crucial. No retirement contributions. If you're not maxing out your 401k match or your IRA, do that first. That's free money from your employer, and the tax benefits are too good to pass up. Young with time. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, compound interest is your best friend. The difference between starting to invest at 25 versus 35 is absolutely massive. Time in the market is your superpower. You know what I realized while researching this? The spreadsheet doesn't actually matter nearly as much as I thought it would. The math is important, don't get me wrong, but it's not the answer. Here's what I mean. When you walk into someone's newly bought home, what do you think? One person walks in and thinks, wow, they're winning at life. They own a home. They made it. Another person walks into the exact same house and thinks, wow, they've got a 30-year ball and chain. They have to work for the next 3 decades just to own this place. Same house, same mortgage, completely different stories. And the story you tell yourself matters more than any calculation I can show you. Some people feel trapped by debt. They can't relax, can't enjoy life, can't sleep while knowing they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. For these people, aggressively paying down the mortgage isn't just financially smart. It's psychologically essential. The optimal mathematical strategy of investing everything is worthless if it makes you miserable. Other people feel trapped by not having liquid assets. They can't stand the idea of having all their wealth tied up in home equity that they can't easily access. For these people, investing provides flexibility, options, and peace of mind. Neither approach is wrong. They are different optimization functions for different people. The F-squared rule isn't really a mathematical formula. It's a framework for thinking about what you actually want from your financial life. The Freedom Fund isn't just the money. It's the freedom to design your life the way you want it. So here's my challenge to you. Before you open up that mortgage calculator or that investment app, sit down and write out what financial freedom actually means to you. Not what some guru says it should mean. Not what worked for your parents or your friends. What it means to you personally in your specific life situation. Once you have that answer, the math becomes a lot simpler. The F-squared rule gives you a framework to execute on your vision, whatever it is. Maybe your answer is, I did the math and I'm going all in on investing. Great. Do it. Maybe your answer is, I can't sleep with this debt hanging over me. I'm paying this thing off as fast as humanly possible. Also great. Do that. The point is to make the decision intentionally, with full information, based on your actual values and goals. Not just because some video on the internet told you there was one right answer. Because here's the truth. There isn't one right answer. There's just your answer. And as long as you're making that choice deliberately, with open eyes, you're going to be just fine. The Freedom Fund rule isn't about picking the perfect strategy. It's about building the life you actually want while the numbers take care of themselves. And that's something no spreadsheet can ever calculate for you.